something I forgot, but super cool. Anyway, I'll let her introduce herself and show you what she does.
Thanks, Christabel, for the introduction. So basically, I've been running Eat Shoots and Roots for the past 8 years. We've been operating from a different site, and what we do is actually we teach people how to grow their own vegetables at home. We help people. My days at Eat Shoots and Roots, like Christabel said, I was in Cempaka since 1991 until 2001, actually, so for good 11 years. But between school and now, I was working in advertising for quite a while, doing a lot of graphic design work, working with advertising agencies. And the kind of work that we do now at Eat Shoots and Roots is also quite similar because we do a lot of educational materials. We come up with products that people can use so that they can grow food at home. We teach people how to do it through like our educational reading material and all that kind of stuff. So anyhow, if you want to find out more, you can look at our website, our Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and all that. But today, I just wanted to show all of you the garden that we have. Currently, we're in a space very close to Cempaka, which is just at Jalan Bruas. You're still there? Can I continue? Okay, yeah. So basically, at the moment, we're in a space just off Jalan Bruas, which is actually very close to Cempaka. It's kind of like 5 minutes away. We have a daycare in our space called Rainbow Montessori, but our office is also here. We have a little garden, and in this garden, we grow a lot of different vegetables that the kids use for their meals. That the kids can play with. They are supposed to plant a lot of the things, but then sometimes in the end, the adults end up planting it because they are 2.5, so they have limited motor skills. So I'm just going to take you around the garden just to show you what an edible garden looks like and hope that you will be inspired to start one at home. This is a grounded garden, and later I'll show you a balcony garden as well. And then after that, I will show you how to start your own seedlings at home. Is that okay, Christabel? Okay. So where I'm set right now is I'm in the tool shed. So I'm just gonna switch my camera the other way around so that you guys can see the space that I'm at. Okay. I'm also using my phone, so bear with me. Okay. So this is the space that we keep all our tools. This is where we start a lot of different seedlings. And if you can see here, these are all the baby plants that we have. These are some eggplants. If you can see, they're kind of like maybe about 4 weeks old now. So they're ready to go out into the garden. In this nursery is where we start baby plants, and then once they're mature enough, we let them out into the garden. But I'll show you what the garden looks like. So excuse the jaggedness also. But this is basically where we grow our veggies. I'm sure you all have seen your own vegetable garden in school as well. This is an example of a garden bed that we set up. So we would transplant the babies into here, and then we would actually cover it with a netting so that the bugs can't go inside. And then at least we can grow organically and we don't have to use pesticide. So that's kind of nice. You can actually do this very easily. If you have a hula hoop at home, you just cut it into half and then you put it here and you spread like a whole net over it. So it's very easy to do and it works very well. Over here, we have some crazy pumpkins going. Well, just a pumpkin plant, no pumpkins yet. But we also put this net over it. It's not to keep out the bugs, but actually to keep out all the other animals that are in this space, which is, if you can see, the chicken, we have 2.5 chickens in the space. This chicken here is Kapitan. And they kind of like hang out in the space together with his wife, Kamhyong, and their child, Kwachi. So I'll show you their home later, but they're just roaming around the garden. So the point of the black net is so that the chickens can't go into the space, because otherwise they will ruffle it up and they'll mess it up and things like that. So this is an example of a lime plant. And what we try to grow here are things that are very easily growable in the Malaysian climate. So this, I don't know if anyone can recognize this, but this is actually mulberry. And mulberry grows really easily. And you can just you can just cut the stem basically. If you get this mulberry plant, right, if you cut the stem here and you stick it into the ground, then you'll get another mulberry plant. So it's very, very easy to grow. Also, there's an example here, which is moringa. Don't know if a lot of parents are viewing. You might know that moringa is quite expensive when you go and buy it as a pill. But actually, you can grow your own moringa, and it's really easy. We grew this via seeds, but we just keep cutting it, and it just keeps growing back all year round. So it's really easy to grow. And the moringa leaf is actually quite pretty. See here, it's got a nice smell. So moringa is really easy. If you're planning to grow something like cucumber, then you need a trellis. This trellis is a bit, well, we haven't been in the garden for like a week or two. Our garden coordinators are working remotely, so this trellis is looking a bit tired. It probably needs to be replaced soon, but it's lasted for maybe a year plus. Very cheap to do, so you can actually like add things like this into your garden very easily, so that you can have creeping plants. So this is an example of a creeping plant. This will be a bit sad. This is a cucumber, one lone cucumber plant. The thing with this garden is you get a lot of creatures here, like this cat who comes from the neighbor's house, and all the animals and stuff like that. So even sometimes when we planted like 6 cucumbers here, and then we end up with one because this cat or the chickens have like scrounged it up. So if you're starting to protect your garden against wild animals like this cat. Other things that you can grow in your garden is also local herbs. So these are plants that are called Indian borage. They grow very easily. You try to kill it and they cannot die. So every time you cut it, it just grows back. So these are things that you can think about. Also, here is a lone ginger. And then there's also a daun kaduk. Kaduk is what you use in miang kiam when you eat this Thai dish. They eat it raw. And we also have some limes. Well. So previously, these limes used to grow at the back of the garden. But then now we moved them here because it was getting a bit soggy there. So they're much happier in this area here. Another thing I wanted to show is this is a tomato plant. I realize all this black cloth makes everything look quite scary, but it really is to keep the chickens out. So this tomato plant here, tomatoes are actually quite hard to grow in Malaysia because we're very, very hot and wet at the same time, our climate. So this tomato, I think it died maybe once and then it came back. But when you have tomatoes, you need to keep them propped up, which is why you have this, and this is what we call the tomato cage. It's not to put the tomato in it, but it's to have the tomato be able to climb around it. Because otherwise, without this, the tomato is just going to flop over. So something essential if you want to try to grow tomatoes, something to think about. And I guess the last part of the garden I wanted to show you was the chicken coop. So I think maybe you all can think about having some chickens in school sometime because they're so easy to rear. But this is our chicken area. This is a makeshift chicken coop that we have with 2 nesting boxes. To be fair and honest, the chickens have not been nesting in here for a while. We made them a really nice condominium, but then they preferred to like lay eggs in the garden itself. So we've kind of abandoned their premium condominium, but it's still there if they ever want to go back. And the chickens we have, they kind of just roam around the garden. We used to keep them inside, but there were a few animals that came and mauled them, so we figured it's better for them to be outside in case they need to run away or fly away. So the nice thing about having chickens is that even though they're like here, and our main gate is actually really just there, they don't really go out of the main gate. They just hang around. Um, for some reason, I don't know. They don't like going out, so they're really nice pets to have. And if you see here, yeah, well, I don't know if you can see lah, but there's like Kapitan, Kam Hyong, and Kwachi, right? So Kwachi is about, I think, 3 weeks old, 3 weeks to 4 weeks old. And before this, Kam Hyong would lay eggs every day. Simple way of starting your own seedlings at home. Any questions, Christabel?
Okay, the first question that we had was from Pansapura, and the question is actually, which of these plants are really good for growing in pots? Because most people at home, some people in condominiums thought would be what are good plants to grow in pots.
Okay, so I'm currently making my way upstairs, and I can show you what plants there are to grow in pots up there if you give me a minute. But if you're staying in a condominium, basically what you're looking at would be growing in pots, and you have to look at the mature size of a plant to gauge what you can grow within that space. So I'm just going to put this here and keep this here. So this is our workshop space. This is where we usually conduct our workshops, but there's no one here except me. It's a bit lonely, but yeah. So again, with the question of what you can grow in condominium pots, right? We actually have a series of kits that we've done, kind of look like this. And because we get so many questions of what can grow here, where, when, so usually what we do is we package the seeds that are easiest to grow in a condominium in these boxes. So inside each box, there are different seeds. I'm going to give an example of the curry seed box. So in the curry seed box, there are a few different seeds, which are chili padi, brinjal, and lady's finger. So you can actually grow these in an apartment if you have a balcony and if you have enough sun, and you can grow them in pots. So that's one thing you can grow. You can also grow leafy greens. So everything's so convenient right here. So with the leafy green box, in this we have kangkong, kailan, and Malabar spinach. So these are really easy things to grow as well. If you need actually any more help with vegetables that are easy to grow here, you can look at a website that we started called sayurinthecity.com. That's sayur for vegetables in Malay, inthecity.com. And we actually have a full listing of the plants that can grow well in a local tropical climate. Because I think what we were really frustrated with was when we were looking for a lot of information on vegetables, a lot of it would be from the UK or the US. So the kind of climates they have there is very different from here. So we decided to make our own directory lah. So sayurinthecity.com is like the most easiest reference for what can grow in KL. Yeah. Any other questions?
I think maybe you do your demo first, and then we will go through the questions all at once lah. But we do have a bunch of questions.
Sure. So basically, like I said before, we design all these kits because we want to make it easy for people to start growing at home. This is starting to feel like a bit of a pasar malam sales pitch, but basically what we do is in these kits, it comes with a peat pellet. So with the peat pellet, it's actually just a way for us to distribute soil easily. When we used to sell seed packs, people would be like, "Oh, where can I buy the soil?" And we can't possibly like all this soil to the shop to sell to them. So then we decided to stock these instead, which is basically coconut fiber that's dried and compressed into a pellet. But once you add water to it, it expands. And when it expands, it looks like this. and it becomes a mini pot lah. And when it's a mini pot, then you can start growing things. So this is actually an example of a chili plant that was grown maybe like 2-3 weeks back. It's a bit stunted because we haven't transferred it out. We were actually growing this for someone else, but then their event got cancelled. So then, okay, now we have an excess of chili plants. But basically, once it goes from that to this, then you can transplant this out into the garden really easily. So this is an example of what you can do to start your garden at home. All these seeds and all this stuff, you can actually look on our online shop also. I think during this time, it's quite surprising that suddenly a lot of people are very interested in starting their own gardens at home. So our online sales team has been quite busy. But you can check out the website. It's pretty easy to navigate everything that you need. Other things that you can start at home is also this microgreen thing. My working example is downstairs in the garden. But basically, this is a packet of sprouts that you can grow. Very popular in the high-end dining circuit because, very happening and trendy. But in each box actually comes a little tray. And you can do this at home if you don't have a lot of sunlight because you can grow this without a lot of sunlight. And you can put it in your kitchen and you can start growing these sprouts for about a week. And you can actually harvest them from a week to 2 weeks onwards already. So it's a fast way of growing these sprouts. But it's not enough to feed your whole family lah. It's more of a garnish. So yeah, keep that in mind. This will not make you full. It will just lighten up your life a bit. So this is a microgreen kit. I think those are the main products that we have, and then other things that we have is also like Seladang, goat dung, things that we need in the garden. But essentially, if you're starting these seeds at home, first you need to get your seeds, then you need to get your soil. After planting, it doesn't end there. You still need to make sure you water your plants every day. And you actually need to feed them as well. I think people always forget that we need to feed our plants because they're living creatures. So if you're planning to start a garden, if you're not going to be there, don't start a garden. Only start it if you're around because it will be very dependent on you. And there's just no way around it. I mean, you can automate things, but even if you automate your systems, you still need to take care of the system or at least, if there's a power trip, then, if you had a hydroponic system, that would go wonky as well. So just make sure that there's someone around to care for your garden. And in feeding your garden, you need to make sure you feed the right fertilizers because too much fertilizer is also no good. So you have to observe your plants and see what is right for it. You have different sorts of plants, leafy plants, fruiting plants. Not all plants consume the same amount of fertilizer. So feed it. And then after that, for sure, the last thing is you will always find pests no matter where you go, even if you put a net on it. I think a lot of times we try to think that, it's going to be pest-free and, there aren't going to be so many pests. But you'll be surprised that we've been doing it for 8 years and every year we actually find new pests. For some reason, when you grow something different, then different pests are attracted to it. For instance, if you're on a balcony and you start growing cucumbers and pumpkins, maybe if you're lucky enough to have such a big balcony, you'll start seeing all these pumpkin beetles and bugs that are specifically attracted to cucumbers and pumpkins. For some reason, they will come. Unless maybe you're on the 30th floor. But even then, we've grown a garden on the 26th floor and there were pests that came eventually. So I guess bugs are super creatures that can sense these veggies and things like that. So I think the most important tip is actually to make sure that you will always suffer with some plant death. Anyhow, don't be too disheartened if your plant dies. You can always grow again. There's always new things to learn. So yes, I guess I'm finished with my demo for now and open for questions if Christabel has anything to add.
Okay, thank you so much. That was really great. Lots of really great information. Thank you. And that was a really fun tour of the garden. I really like seeing the chickens, chicken kapitan, chicken kamyong chicken, and ayam kwachi, the
Kwachi.
last one. Kwachi. And the cat was also a very cute addition. Okay, so the next question we have this. Sorry, one second. We have this question from Zion, and he says, "Hi, Auntie Shao. Do you feel that having your own edible garden helps with the current situation when it is hard for city people to go out to buy food?"
Yes. So I think with the current situation, everyone's locked up at home and you don't want to be venturing out so much. So if you can actually grow some vegetables at home, you can't possibly grow all your food supplies, but if you can grow some, at least then you can have some supply and a bit of a security blanket of like food in your space. And there are things that you can grow very easily during this time. For instance, sweet potato leaf and kangkong. These are things that grow very, very fast and things that maybe our grandparents used to grow during times of war. So these are really good to grow crops. And we are very lucky to be in Malaysia actually because it's warm and easy to grow all year round. We don't have a winter, so we can grow all year round. It's a blessing.
Okay, so some good crops to grow from your condominium or whatever, kangkong, sweet potato leaf. These are things that grow very quickly, right? And I think because it's a little bit late, we are already 2 weeks in, but I think these are still good things to grow. Pon Sapura asks, is it true that we need to plant flowers along with the vegetables for the vegetables to grow better?
Yeah, so when you grow flowers along your vegetables, the flowers act as a repellent or a distractant to the bugs that come. So let's say if you're planting marigold, when a bug comes, if it sees just a bit of veggies, then it's going to be like, it's so delicious, let me go eat all of the veggies. But then if it comes and it sees like a pretty flower on the side, then it might get distracted and go towards the flower instead. So having the flowers help. Also, the flowers attract good bugs that you want to have in the garden, say for bees, maybe other things like dragonflies. Hopefully they're attracted to flowers as well. But it encourages a more diverse bug environment. So you will attract good bugs that will come and eat the bad bugs as well. Because otherwise, then it's a bit imbalanced if you just have purely veggies. For instance, when you have a farm, if you're only growing one crop, if a bug comes and sees your entire crop of kangkong and really loves it, it'll maul everything. But if you have a few different crops and you have a more diverse crop base, then at least you can, have some backups. And when the bugs come, they'll be distracted basically. They won't go zip beeline for your best veggies. They will be distracted by others.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know that there were different bugs like different kind of like veggies, and so I thought they were just simply makan any veggie, but I guess they all have specific things that they like and that they will tend to go towards. So when you have a diverse group of vegetables, then your crops are safer lah. That's very interesting. Yeah. Okay, next question. Chick Zainab says, "Great job, Shao-Lyn. Keep it up. Are we allowed to visit your edible garden?"
At the moment, under the COVID situation, we are not having any visitors. But so basically, we have remote Montessori here mainly. So during school holidays, when they're on school holidays, then we are open for school holiday visits. Yes. So you can come by because we're so close by. So yes, and hi to someone.
That is so close by. Okay, and next question from Check No Nazera. Can we plant ladies' fingers in pots?
Yes, you can plant ladies' fingers in pots. So one thing to note is when you're thinking of your plant and what pot you can plant it in, if you Google just the plant to see how big it will be in its mature size, then you can gauge what kind of pot size you need. So for instance, a lady's finger plant can actually grow as tall as me. I'm not very tall, about 5'2", and actually can grow even taller. So then, if I am a lady finger plant, then I would need quite a substantial pot to hold me up. So then your pot should be in proportion to the size of the mature plant. Hope that kind of helps.
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely helps. But then also the roots can be quite extensive, right? So sometimes even when the plant is very small, the root is like, really going a lot, like requires a lot of soil. Is that true?
Actually, it depends on usually the top part of the plant will dictate how much soil it needs. So for instance, a lady's finger plant would be quite large, so it needs a larger pot. But then there's also like plants like kelapa sawit, which is strange. If you look up kelapa sawit, when you look at the root growth of kelapa sawit, it actually grows like horizontally and it creeps to a lot of different places and it's very invasive. So actually different plants have different root growing styles. But in terms of veggies, usually a rough guide would be 1 square foot for a fruiting crop lah. That will kind of help you gauge how much space you need. But for leafy things, because leafy vegetables like pak choy, they're much smaller, right? So you can lay them up in a row and they can grow tighter together. So yeah, a lot of math involved in the calculation of spaces. But roughly, if you look up square foot gardening as well, that's quite a good reference point of how many vegetables you can grow in a square foot, and easier to calculate lah, based on square feet.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Mr. Lukman. Any specific advice for growing edibles on a balcony with a lot of exposure to the elements several floors up?
Oh yeah, maybe is it okay if we go for a tour upstairs to the balcony?
If we can do it really quickly, and because we only have like 10 minutes left, but maybe we do the other questions. Okay, go, quick.
Yeah, you can ask me while I go upstairs. Oh, yeah,
Okay.
sorry for the staggeredness.
Yeah, don't worry. Next question. Can you plant tomatoes in the apartment? This is from Encik Hilmi.
Okay. I just wanted to come out to the balcony to show all of you what it looks like on our balcony because we have a different type of garden here. I'm just going to swap the camera around. So this is our balcony, and this is an example of what you can grow on a balcony. This is a veggie bed that we have that stands on legs. And we're growing some lettuce here, coriander, Thai basil. We put this under the netting to keep the bugs off. So balcony plants, you can do quite a bit. And again, this is like the same kind of bed that we've used for downstairs, but we used it on our balcony. So this is a lady's finger here. It's actually a chili plant that's almost going gone. This is a Thai basil plant that has been here for very, very long. So you can grow quite a few things on your balcony, and also this is a down salom leaf that you can get from the market to grow. So the garden here is a bit sporadic because the kids are in charge of growing it. Sometimes they overwater the garden, sometimes they put too many seeds. For instance, here they put too many radish seeds and then they're all growing in a corner. They planted kangkong and then now there's some weeds in it. But this is also ulam raja, which has grown really, really well and it's starting to seed again. So sorry, back to the question of tomatoes. Can you repeat the question on tomatoes?
I guess the question is whether, can we plant them in the apartment? To me, seems like it would be okay.
Yeah, so I think you can grow tomatoes in apartments. The thing with tomatoes is it's not the easiest thing to grow in Malaysia because of the humidity. They get quite susceptible to fungal disease. And if you think about tomatoes usually grow well in Mediterranean climates where it's a bit drier. So if you're on a balcony, actually, it might do not too bad because you can control the amount of water that comes in. As in, you can put it in a place that doesn't get too much rain. If you grow it in a container, you can put it in an area that's a bit drier. So you can try. People have done it. It's just not the easiest crop to grow, but it's worth trying because I think getting the tomato fruits are very encouraging when you do get it. But an alternative to growing tomatoes, eggplants and tomatoes are actually in the same family. So if you want to try an easier crop, you can also try eggplants. Because they're pretty much the same family, although they taste completely different. Chilies are also in the same family. But yeah.
Fascinating. Great. These are families of fruits, right? Because they're not actually vegetables.
We call them
And
fruiting vegetables.
fruiting vegetables. Okay. We have a question from Asha. Hi, can we order your starter cake? How long does the delivery take in the current situation?
Okay, so right here, right now, I'm the only one here today in the office. Usually there's 5 to 6 of us, so we're all working remotely. But we're doing deliveries every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So we will accumulate all the orders and then send them out on those days. So ideally, if we can make it in time, then we will put it the earliest as possible. So a lot of things that people are ordering now, besides the kits, are also soil. So that is something that you could order as well. Not the easiest thing to find. Compost also would be something that you could order in. So if you have a landed property and you already have basically you already have tanah lah in your space, you can just mix it with compost and start planting. You don't have to use potting soil. But if you're in an apartment and you have a balcony and you don't have access to ground soil, then you can buy potting soil because then it's just ready mixed and you can just add it into your pots. Yeah, so there are those options now, which is actually very little supply. So we only just got a big supply of it last week because it was running out. I think people trying to hoard soil and compost as well. Another thing that we have currently is also goat poo, which is actually to me the thing that I will hoard the most is probably goat poo because all the nutrients are in the goat poo itself. So that would be the main ingredient to keep your plants thriving well. So worth getting goat poo. Yeah.
Okay, you've inspired me to purchase some goat poo in my next order. Okay, we have a few more questions. We only have about 4 more minutes. I'm gonna group these questions together. They are also kind of related. So firstly, we have a question from Rashania, one of our students. What is the best recommended soil? Which I think you covered a little bit. And then Zion again says, hi again, Auntie Shao. My father asked if you grow any medicinal plants along with your edibles.
Hello, Zion and father of Zion. Currently, medicinal plants. Indian borage is kind of a medicinal plant because it's good for cough, but that's not what we've been focusing on recently. But actually, if you look up ulams in Malaysia, there are actually a lot of plants that have medicinal value that we oversee and actually grow as weeds in the garden. So you can try to look out for things like ketumpang air and there's another one called sambung nyawa. There's also another ulam called hempedu bumi that grows wild in a lot of places, but actually has a lot of medicinal value and is actually used in Blackmore. You know that brand of pills and stuff like that, vitamins. They actually use this hempedu bumi plant, the active ingredient, as the main ingredient in their pills for cold and flu, which helps with common cold symptoms. So you'd be amazed at what you can find in your garden, especially when there are weeds. So yeah.
Yeah, and I really love that you guys focus on what grows best in Malaysia, what are our local plants and veggies, because I think sometimes we have a tendency to be like, oh, in the West, they do this and this and this, blah, blah, blah. But actually, we don't realize that we have so many very, very healthy and very medicinal herbs as well. So then really sort of exposing that. But I also do believe that most of your seeds are all vegetables. That's what you guys are focusing on.
At the moment, yes. Yeah. A lot of times, medicinal plants grow not via seeds, but via cuttings because they're more perennial plants and they grow wild. The ones in Malaysia, at least. Yeah. So if you find medicinal plants by a side of a road, just pick it up and grow it at home.
Okay. And our last question, I guess. This is from Encik Raphael. He says you should do another session, Shao-Lyn, at the Cempaka Garden with Dato Frida once the MCO is over. Are you interested?
Sure. Yes, of course.
Of course. Okay, wonderful. Well, with that, thank you so much. It's been really, really great having you. Guys, everybody check out your website. What's your website again and your Instagram handle?
Oh, it's if you go to the online shop, it's shop.eatshootsandroots.org. Or if it's our main page, is www.eatshootsandroots.org. Or you can just look us up on Instagram at Eat Shoots and Roots. Or Facebook, Eat Shoots and Roots also. Or YouTube, Eat Shoots and Roots as well. Yeah.
Okay,
Plural, all plural.
all plural, yes. Also important is there. Any last parting words?
Oh, yeah. I hope all of you get to grow something at home during this time, because it's a bit of a strange time, but it's also a really good time to start gardening at home. I don't think anyone has ever had so much time to spend at home, and your gardens usually need a lot of your tender loving care, so it's a perfect time to start one. So yeah, please go forth and grow forth and multiply.
Grow forth. But thank you so much. We are gonna get cut off in any second now, but I just want to say thank you. That was really great and really informative. And I hope you guys go and plant away. Check them out online to get your supplies. Go cool. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thanks, Shao-Lyn.
Belle.